Something that I've been sort of playing around with lately is this idea of privilege. And I feel like we talk about privilege a lot in a certain context, but I find myself often trying to reconcile and acknowledge the privileges I have in life. And one of those privileges that I didn't really think about, that I have slowly begun to realize that I have, is that I have the privilege of my hair and how I wear my hair. Hey everyone, it's me Hallease, endeavoring to persevere as always. If you're new here, I make videos about my chaotic good life. Subscribe, follow, social media, blah blah blah. This sort of came up when I was doing that Q&A video for y'all. It's sort of a massive Q&A about my locks, and I had reached out to y'all on Instagram and here on YouTube in the community tab to just send me your questions about my locks. And so many of y'all had questions around acceptance. A lot of you work in different fields where, you're the only one repping us. If I'm gonna be honest, if I'm gonna be real, you're the only one repping us. And whether you like it or not, you have to represent an entire demographic of people. And you have to be approachably black, whatever that is. And it was hard for me to answer those questions because that's not my life. As I move through the world, my hair and how it looks and if it's socially accepted isn't something that I think about, at all. Because I don't have to. I've always worked in a creative industry, and so I think, and I said this in the video before, that you get a little bit of leeway as a creative to do things, especially in the film industry. You can have tattoos, you can have piercings, you can have locks. I recognize that that's not everybody's life. Unfortunately, when you're thinking about a hairstyle, you have to think about how it may or may not affect your career. I want us to get to a point where that's not the case. And I feel like we're getting there. I feel like it's possible. I think about my parents' generation, where so much of what they distilled in my generation was this idea of assimilating, this idea of just trying to fit in as much as humanly possible. And there was a very distinct moment in my life when I realized that that just wasn't what I could do. That to me, trying to assimilate just wasn't an option, because I'm me. I look different, and there's nothing I can do about that. I might as well embrace those differences fully and not necessarily try to cater to a certain standard of beauty that I can never achieve. Once I hit that moment in my life, it just kind of changed how I dressed, how I addressed people, and how I wear my hair. I think I could see myself changing my hair if I ever got into sort of narrative acting. Because again, I do think locks are a very bold statement. I think having locks, whether I want to acknowledge it or not, having locks does sort of acknowledge that, hey, I'm not gonna try to cater to a Western European beauty standard. No shade to y'all with the wigs and weaves, because y'all be killing it. I love a good wig just as much as the next woman. I love seeing it on y'all. But for me, it's not my ministry. It never has been. And it's not because I don't think it's beautiful, but I think I just don't care enough to try. My locks, and one of the main reasons I wear my locks this way is in shaving my head, I realized that I wanted long hair, but I didn't want to have to work a lot for long hair. And locks are a way to do that for me. So, I don't know. I really wanted to get on and just have this sort of discussion with y'all in the comments about this concept, this idea of just what is it about locks that are inherently maybe a privilege or just different. Black Hair Compass, Joyce, she did a video on her channel recently kind of talking about how I think she's a family friend of hers doesn't want, she wants to get locks, but she's scared professionally to do it. And so instead she just wears braids. And in her video, she talks about how is that any different from having locks, you know? Like, what is it about having your hair braided, which braids are gorgeous, obviously, but having like micro braids, how is that any different from just having sister locks, you know, aesthetically anyway, at least? Like, what is it about dreadlocks themselves that make them scary for Black people to transition to? My experience isn't the rest of the United States experience, especially my Black experience is unique to me. And in mine, I have found, you know, a certain amount of freedom in how I wear my hair, and I don't think about how my hair is maybe hindering me from getting work or making me unapproachable to the gatekeepers that be, that unfortunately don't look like me usually. I guess I'm just curious to like continue this conversation around just these insecurities and these sort of unspoken rules that we as Black people have to sort of navigate and work through. And how can we slowly begin to not have to do that? Like, what does that look like in practice? But I'm curious to know what y'all think, and I'm curious to just like continue the conversation below. So let me know in the comments below how you feel about this concept. Is having locks a privilege? If you're new here, like, share, subscribe, and other such things. And if you've made it this far in the video, obviously there's something that you're jiving with, so consider, again, subscribing. Finally, if you want to see more content from me consistently, consider joining my Patreon production crew. There at patreon.com/Hallease, you get early access to videos and also private weekly vlogs that are just for Patreon producers, sort of giving them background on everything I'm going through, and you can ask me specific questions and I'll make whole videos around that in those weekly vlogs. If Patreon is not your bag, you know, money's tight, so on and so forth, totally get that. Join the mailing list. I put out a newsletter like once a quarter. Not stressful, not spamming you, fam. YouTube thinks you'll like this video. Hit it up. And then also, more lock videos are here. I'm Hallease. I'll see you when I see you.